Hello, my name is Ray and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. So before I get started with the review, I just wanted to preface this because a lot of y'all know that I am not a huge romance fan. But for the past few months, I've been kind of thinking about giving romance another shot. I saw some really good book recommendations from Books with Shay. I'll leave a link to that video down below. And the book that I'm reviewing today, I saw popping up all over BookTube and Bookstagram, so I decided to go ahead and give it a try. When I was in high school, I read a lot of Nicholas Sparks, and I think that kind of ruined romance for me. When I left high school, I just really did not care to read romance at all. I especially dislike when romances are thrown into other genres. For example, The Hunger Games. Candace doesn't really have time for romance, especially not a love triangle. She's either fighting for her life or leading a rebellion. There's really no time for this, and it really didn't make sense. I will still stand PETA all day, every day, but at the end of the day, if Katniss had ended up with neither of them, I would have been okay with that. It also happened in one of my recent reads, Truly Devious, if you saw my review of that. I feel like putting a romance in the middle of a murder mystery doesn't even really make sense. So that was just one of the many reasons that I did not enjoy Truly Devious. So a lot of times when romance is thrown into other genres, I feel like it's unnecessary. So I'm gonna give this whole romance thing a try. I've been thinking about it a lot, particularly wanting to read romance written by Black authors. And even before I started reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown, I had already committed to also reading Take a Hint, Dani Brown, particularly because some of my favorite booktubers have read both and a lot of people seem to like Dani Brown better. So I wanted to go ahead and read both of them. I also didn't want to know that Dani Brown's book was better and only read Get a Life, Chloe Brown. And technically it's not a series, but I wanted to read them in the order that they came out. There are three Brown sisters, Chloe, Danica, and Eve is getting a book as well. I believe it's called Act Your Age, Eve Brown. So I'm also going to read that, even though from the snippets that I've seen, she's probably my least favorite of the sisters, but I've already made the commitment, so I'm going to do it. So today I'm going to be reviewing Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. In this, our main character, Chloe Brown, has a near-death experience and realizes that she is not living her life to the fullest, at least not the way that she would like to. So she enlists the help of Redford Morgan, who is one of her neighbors, as well as the superintendent of her apartment complex. And it's interesting because they don't really have any pleasant interactions at this point, so it was a weird thing for both of them, but she strikes a deal with him and says, if you help me with my list, I will build your website for you, because he's an artist and he needs to get back on his game. So they start ticking off things on Chloe's list and the shenanigans start from there. So I really didn't think that this was gonna happen, but I'm gonna give this a 5-star review. I absolutely loved it. I finished it in like a day and a half. I was really enjoying reading it. I also got the audiobook so that I could listen while I read along, or I could listen while I was doing other things. This book is funny, it's sexy, and I like the way that she talks about some very important issues. So I highly recommend it, and it's probably going to be one of the top books that I've read in 2020 altogether. So if you have not yet read this book and you would like to, this is your official spoiler warning. I'm going to dive deeper into the characters and the plot and what happens and why I enjoyed it so much. So right in the middle of filming, one of my neighbors decided to start doing some work. So if it sounds like someone's using a hammer outside, they are. So right off the bat, I really appreciated that the author included a content warning and explained that this book would deal with healing from an abusive relationship. And one, this is like the first book that I've actually seen that has a content warning, which I think is super important. I don't understand why most people won't do it. It doesn't spoil the plot for you. It's really like, it's just being considerate of your reader. I don't understand why that's such a hard concept to grasp. But anyway, I really appreciate that. And as I usually do, I'm going to start off with the characters. So Chloe Brown is a chronically ill tech nerd who, as she's walking one day just on her afternoon stroll, almost gets hit by a drunk driver. So while Chloe does own her own business, she feels like she could do more. She starts thinking about what her eulogy would say if she had gotten hit by that driver, and she's like, I need to do more. I need people to know me not as just the boring homebody that I currently am. And there's nothing wrong with being a boring homebody, just throwing that out there because I definitely am too. But Chloe wants to do more. As I mentioned, Chloe is chronically ill. She has fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, and a lot of times people don't understand illnesses that you can't see, and I think the chronic illness rep is very important and very well done. I have a family member who has fibromyalgia. I have a really close friend who has chronic pain and other chronic illnesses, so I think she did a really great job addressing all of those, as well as how having a chronic illness can affect your social life. Chloe talks about how her ex-fiance left her because he didn't believe that she actually had any sort of condition because there wasn't any proof, and how she's lost friends because of this. So I think that those are very important and are sometimes things that people don't really talk about when it comes to chronic illness. So I really love that. Chloe is also a very curvy woman, and never once did she ever feel insecure about her weight. There is never a time where someone says something insensitive to her. It's such a non-issue, and I just wish that we could have more body positivity like that in general. So aside from the characters just being amazingly written, she also did a very good job of talking about certain things, but not in a way where it's just normal, which is how it's supposed to be. The next character is Redford Morgan, aka Red. I absolutely love Red. He is fucking hilarious. I really loved getting his inner thoughts, and we see a lot of him, as I mentioned with the author's note, a lot of him learning to heal from the abusive relationship that he was in the past. And this abusive relationship, his ex-girlfriend wasn't only a bitch, like she kind of destroyed him. What I especially love about him is that he can always tell when Chloe is in pain, and I think that's really important for her because she often tries to push herself, but he knows when she's pushed herself a little too much. And how he mentioned about the ex-fiance and how he couldn't realize that she was in pain when it was very obvious to him, that really said a lot. And what I appreciate about Red is the part where he overhears Chloe's conversation with her sisters and he completely misunderstands what's happening. Even though he did blow up and even though he did the completely wrong thing in that moment, he immediately took a breath, centered himself, realized where he went wrong, and tried to fix it. A lot of people would have less problems if they could do that. So we did get a few snippets of both Danny and Eve. I can already tell I'm gonna love Danny. I cannot wait to read Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I know I'm gonna love it. Eve is a little annoying to me, to be honest. She seems just very over the top, but we'll see. I'm still gonna read her book regardless, so we'll see how that goes. I love their grandmother, Gigi. Every time I read a line from her, I'm thinking of Jennifer Lewis. Like, that's who she reminds me of, and if this ever turns into a movie or TV show, Jennifer Lewis better play Gigi. So in the beginning of the book, based on Chloe and Red's inner monologues when they were having conversations with each other, it seemed like it was going to be hate to love, but it actually turned out to be more of they were both secretly pining for each other but didn't know how to tell the other person because they both think that they hate each other. So it ended up being kind of a slow burn, but I actually really like that. Even when they are talking to each other and starting to get intimate, it's still a very, very slow burn. But I liked it. It was very well done, and it was never boring, which is super important for keeping my attention, because when things get boring, I stop caring. As you can imagine, there are also some very steamy, very sexy moments in here, and what I appreciate about it is that it's not fade to black. And I say that because I once read a romance that had a 15-page buildup and then faded to black. And at that point, it's like, why'd you do that? What was the point? And I don't tend to read a lot of books like this, just because I don't read romance like that. So for this to be kind of the first one that I've read in a really, really long time, I mean, I definitely read some Zane books when I was way too young, but we're not going to talk about that. So for this to be the first romance that I've read in a really long time, and for it to include sex scenes, they were very well done and it was very good. And if that's something that you're looking for in a romance, then I highly suggest that you read this. Or anything by Talia Hibbert, probably. I'm definitely interested to see what else she's written, because I'm so surprised that I ended up enjoying this. The main reason that I think I enjoyed Get a Life, Chloe Brown so much is because often romances tend to be very fluffy and flowery, and I don't like that. I feel like it's unrealistic. So I think that's the reason that I have a hard time getting into a lot of romances, and this is real deal, important issues are talked about, like real life situations. But again, like these are adults, so you know, Red fucked up and he had to catch himself. And even though he was technically the one who was in the wrong at that point, Chloe also apologized to him and said, for someone who has just gotten out of an abusive relationship, I should have recognized that that moment was a trigger for you. And it's like, communication, what a fucking concept. Like I said, if people just fucking communicated, a lot of people would have a lot less issues, but whatever. Anyway, gotta love Chloe Brown. It was so good. I cannot wait to read Take a Hint, Danny Brown, which I will probably do sometime next month, I think. As y'all know, I'm on a book buying ban, Taylor, so I can only buy 2 books a month. Although I am going to be unhauling some books, and for all the books that I unhaul, I will be buying new books. So I'll probably get Take a Hint, Danny Brown soon, along with a bunch of other stuff. I'll do videos for both of those, and yeah, that's it. So if you have read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, let me know what you thought about it. I love to talk about it because I want to talk about these things with people, but I also don't want to spoil anything for anyone. So my friend Taylor has been asking me, oh, how was it, is it good, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't really want to say anything because I want you to read it and then we can discuss. But yeah, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.